We are what we repeatedly do, and excellence then is not an act, but a habit. That is a quote from Aristotle, and I think most of you listening, as well as myself, probably understand it quite well. But today, I am not here to talk to you about consistency. I'm here to talk to you about inconsistency, because the same principle that I just mentioned from Aristotle also applies in reverse. Inconsistency is also a habit. Collapsing back into the version of yourself that you no longer want to be, all those bad habits, is also a habit. And you've been practicing these bad habits for far longer than you've been practicing your new good ones, the ones that you want to truly identify with. Now, if you're a high performer or you're operating a business, you've probably done a lot of this mindset or inner work already. You've read Atomic Habits, you've read Think and Grow Rich, maybe you've even read 10x is the new 2x, maybe you've read The Mountain Is You, maybe you've even gone so far as to read things like Reality Transurfing or The Kabbalion. Those are quite niche ones, a little bit farther out there. And for months at a time, as a result of reading these things and applying their philosophies and their principles and their strategies, you feel like you are untouchable, to the point where you are successful in whatever your definition of success is, typically financial success. You're slinging deals, you're closing everything, you feel mentally sharp all of the time, and you operate with this quiet confidence every single time you talk to somebody, step in a room, or hop on a Zoom call, and you feel as though you're the fucking man, like you're that guy. But then, out of nowhere, you wake up one morning, and it doesn't feel like that. It feels like the exact opposite. You're him again. You're this old version of you, the version you genuinely thought you got rid of permanently. So why is he back again? Why is he back into your life? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what is happening to you in these instances using insights from both, neuroscience and your neurological mind, and from the universe as well. Once you understand both of these things, you'll not only never blame yourself for going through these cycles again or experiencing these cycles, you'll also never have to go through them in the same way again. And now listen, when I'm talking about these cycles, I'm not talking about one bad day or one bad week. I'm talking about full-blown identity collapses where you fall fully back into these bad patterns and these bad habits that you thought that you overcame, that you genuinely believed you completely removed. You stop waking up early, you go back on Instagram for hours a day and doom scroll through shit that doesn't matter whatsoever and isn't important and that you arguably don't actually care about. And you avoid having the hard conversations that you need to have in order to progress as a person and in business, whether that's with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whoever, with your employees, or even most importantly, with yourself. The most important questions and conversations are often with yourself. And you can feel it affecting your business on an active basis. Your sales calls that used to feel frictionless and like everybody was gonna piff now feel not frictionless and super heavy. The content that you used to put out like clockwork now takes you 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours to even script it, and then you second guess everything that you put out. And the numbers in your business have slowed down drastically. Now, the irony of that one is that you're not even mad that the numbers have slowed down because you're giving yourself a story about why it's happened. You know the answer to the question about why it's happened. It's because you slowed down first. And then comes the part that actually fucks you up the most. It's not the behavior that you're doing, it's the shame. The fucking shame. Because you've done the work, brother. You've sat in the meditations, you've read the books, you've installed good routines, you've got good habits now, you're a high-level operator, and you know that you're capable of doing better than what you're doing right now. And yet here you are doing the exact same shit that you were doing 2 years ago before you even ever started this journey of business or high performance or anything like this. And the most difficult part of it all is you feel out of control. You crave control and you do not have it. And as a result, you have no good explanation as to why what's happening to you is happening to you. You tell yourself that it's just a season, or that you're recalibrating, or that you need a vacation, or that it's the ups and downs of business, the ebbs and flows. And maybe you even, oh man, I hope you don't do this, but maybe you even go as far as to tell yourself, I need to read another book, or I need to pay another coach, or I got to do another, business strategy. Which all of those are fucking stupid and none of them are the real answer. Like I mentioned, all they are stories that you tell yourself so you don't have to sit with the discomfort of not knowing what your actual problem is and being confused and feeling out of control. Until you understand the actual mechanism underneath this cycle, you are going to keep watching yourself collapse for the rest of your life, no matter how successful you become. Now, You know this to be the case. I'm pretty sure you know it's true. And I'm not here to just reiterate to you something that you already know. So let me explain to you exactly what is happening and why it has nothing to do with discipline, motivation, or mindset. Lesson 1. You are not a flat line, you are a wave. Every single living system in the universe oscillates. Your heart doesn't beat in a straight line, it pulses. Your breath doesn't hold steady at the top, it cycles in and out of your diaphragm and your lungs. The seasons don't stay the same in like 99% of the world. The tide doesn't stay high, and markets, in the stock market, crypto, don't go up in a straight line. Every living, breathing, and existing system on this planet operates in waves. And you as a human being, as a nervous system, as an identity, are also a living system, which means you also operate in waves, whether you like it or not. So when you are at the top for 5-6 months as this untouchable version of yourself, operating at your peak, closing every call, collecting as much cash as you've ever done in your life, your clients are getting great results, you're executing on everything you need to do in order to perform at the highest level or grow the business, you are not creating a new flat baseline of operation for your nervous system. You are simply at the top of a wave, and what we know about waves is that they do one thing. They always come back down. This happens not because you fucked up, not because the work stopped working, not because your strategy is dying out, but because it's literally what waves do. This is the fundamental and universal law of rhythm. Now, what you do wrong is when the wave comes back down from being at the top, you interpret this downswing as proof that the old version of you is who you actually are to your core. And you think that the peak that you were just operating from is just a fake part, a collapse from the real you that's just waiting to show up again. So you panic, you fucking downward spiral, and you shame yourself into oblivion. It's the exact opposite of that is happening. The peak is who you are becoming on an upward trend. The collapse is simply the wave correcting itself back down. Both of them are points on the same wavelength, and both of them are you. Your life is going like this, not like this. Now, before you feel that same shame again and tell yourself, okay, these things are just always going to happen to me, so what's the point in living and what's the point in working? I want to tell you this. The goal is not to embrace these periods of collapse. The goal is to not let the wave take you wherever it wants. It is to recognize when the wave has crested at the bottom as quickly as possible and bring yourself back to net neutral, because here is the truth about the universe. When you peak, it is going to give you an equal and opposite reaction. That is the fundamental law of rhythm, and you cannot beat it or outsmart it or outwork it. But what you can do is shorten the distance between the top of the wave, which you're starting to, want and desire to operate from, and the bottom of the wave. And you can identify the drop the moment it starts. You can catch yourself 2 days into a downswing instead of 2 months into a downswing. And you can come back to this net neutral position with intention and with speed instead of getting dragged through the entirety of this downswing unconsciously. That is the skill that will separate a high performer from a low performer over a high or large period of time. High performers don't stay at the peak forever. That is quite literally and physically impossible. They just have the skill and speed to return to neutral. They are not in the business of playing the short game. They are playing the decade game. Now, obviously, the question still remains. Why does the wave pull you all the way back down to the most visceral part of yourself and all the worst old habits that you used to have that you don't want? Why doesn't it just bring you back to like a slightly worse version of you than you are right now? Which brings us to lesson 2. Your brain is running on default mode. Now, I'm going to explain this in the most simple way possible so that I can grasp your attention. Your brain has 2 versions of you living in it right now. You have the new version of you that you want to be at all times, that you've been building since you started this journey, and then you have the old version of you, the one you've been practicing and building since you were 5 years old. Now, the old you and its habits have way more neurological grooves than the new you, because the old you has been around for 2 decades, whereas the new you has only been around for a couple of years, or maybe even a couple of months. When your prefrontal cortex, the conscious, the deliberate and executive part of your brain, the one that does all of the analysis and things like that, when it goes offline, which it sometimes does when we're tired or when we're stressed out or when we're emotional or when we're hungry or when we're lonely or at literally any time, we're kind of in a state of panic or our nervous system is just depleted and we run out of energy, your brain will not run this new identity that you want to be in at all times. It will run on the most default mode one. and the default mode is the old version of you. That is why when the wave comes down, remember peak of the wave and then trough of the wave, and your nervous system is depleted, you don't wake up as a slightly less disciplined version of the new you. Let's say like if the top of the wave was here, trough was here, this is like, what that would be. You end up waking up as the version of you were 10 years ago, this right down here. And now you're not regressing when this happens. You're not failing. Your conscious mind has just clocked out, basically. It's finished its shift. And the most rehearsed identity that you have that exists inside of your mind is going to come back, right? It's his turn to clock in. Now, this will happen every single time. Together, the law of rhythm and your default mode of program will work to keep you in alignment with this old version of yourself. Now, we are aware of what's happening. So we need things to actually solve the problem, because what's good in understanding the problem if we don't know how to solve it? So here are 3 things you should do as soon as you start feeling yourself going back in to one of these downward spirals towards the bottom here. Number 1, stop riding the peak so hard. The moment most of you business owners hit a streak, you push it super hard, which you should, but not to the extent that you do. You go from working an 8-hour day, or a 10-hour day more likely, to a 14 to 16-hour day. You go from going to the gym every day to skipping the gym because you're locked in. You stop sleeping 7-8 hours a day and you cut down to like 4 hours a day because you're in a flow state. Here's the fucking truth, man. The higher you peak, the harder you're going to crash if you have a non-sustainable peak. Now, the amplitude of this wave is partly within your control. When you get a positive streak, when you hit your wave of good fortune, and it comes around, the move is not to push it harder to the point where it almost goes exponential, because it can't. The move is just to hold the same routines that got you into this wave of good fortune. The same level of sleep, the same good habits, the same level of training, the same level of focus on recovery. You should essentially treat the peak like a marathon rather than a sprint. Because in business, are we playing the day game or the sprint game, or are we playing the decade game or the marathon game? We're obviously playing the decade game. Number 2, recover in days, not weeks. The wave is going to come down no matter what. I hate to fucking break it to you. That is the law of rhythm. You can't beat it, but the length of the drought that you experience is 100% up to you. Most of you let this collapse that you experience drag on for 3, 4, 5 weeks maybe, of bad business decisions and behaviors and blah, 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 blah. The goal that you should have is to be back to net neutral in days. It should not be to not experience these downswings. Now, the moment you notice yourself slipping, just do 3 things in the same 24 hours. Push your body hard, go train, take a cold shower for a while, go do some fucking sprints or something. Whatever will shock your nervous system and alter your physiological state. Cut out the inputs from the old identity. Delete Instagram, delete video games, delete whatever you go do in your comfortable state of mind or whatever this old version of you used to do. And then re-engage with the one thing that the new you does that the old you didn't do. Like do a sales call, or do some cold calls, or do a hard workout, or journal for a page, or do something that, the old you didn't do that the new you does do. And remember, you're not trying to climb back to the peak of execution that you just came from. You just are trying to stop the collapse and the slide from happening pretty much immediately. Number 3, and arguably the most important that nobody does. Use the collapse as a map. When the wave comes down and the old you takes over, pay attention to what specifically this version of you is doing. The swirling, the avoidance, the eating habits, the behavior patterns, whatever it may be, a lot of this behavior will often point to a belief that you have actually not understood, rewritten, or identified yet, and that you probably haven't, dealt with in the way that you should have. And instead of beating yourself up and shaming yourself for being in the state that you're in now, ask yourself one question. What does this behavior say I still believe about myself? Most of the time, that answer is the next thing you should work on, because the collapse that you're going through is not your enemy, and you shouldn't treat it as such. It should be a map or a path, or let's say a diagnostic piece of information that you're going to use to make the peak of your wave more consistent, right? Your top line of execution. So here's what I want you to walk away with from this. You are not broken, you are not regressing, you are not failing every time the wave comes back down and you go back into this bad identity. You are simply living in a universe and a reality where rhythm is quite literally the law. You are living in a system operating exactly the same way as every other living system on this planet operates and in this universe. The peak that you're experiencing, the peak of execution, when you feel fluid and in a rhythm, quite literally, is at the top of the wave. But the trough, The bottom of it is simply the wave correcting itself. Both of them are you. There is no shame in accepting that as a fact. Now, the people who break this cycle will not be the disciplined ones. They won't be the ones who never come down from their peak. They will be the ones who learn to simply peak with intention in the right moments, and then when they go down, quickly recover with speed, as well as use every single downswing as a map back to who they actually are and who they actually want to be. That is the game of life. That is how you use the law of rhythm to your advantage. Now that you can see it, now that you can understand it, you can finally start playing the game of life and using the law of rhythm on purpose. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Genuinely, I love talking about this stuff. If this is a topic that you're struggling with in your business, the ups and downs, feeling like you're procrastinating in times where you shouldn't, feel free to book a call with me down below, and we will do what I call like a diagnosis call, and essentially just identify the exact problem that you're struggling with, where it comes from, how we can circumvent it and get over it. And if you want to see more of the content, like the content that I talked about today, feel free to subscribe or go follow me on Instagram at tristan.vds. And I hope you guys have a blessed day. I'll see you on the next one.